Hello everyone, my name is Asyrafchazz and welcome back to yet another One Piece card game video. So today we are going to be talking about Queen. Queen is one of the new leaders coming from OP-04 and it's such a great leader to use for the late game. It's super resilient with its ability to not only draw you a card, but at the late game when you have something that's 8 or higher, it gains you a life just for free, just like that. Its main goal is to be extremely resilient, survive to the late game, and then draw out the game for as long as possible to out-resource your opponents with your stuff. And with the color pairing of blue and yellow, there's a lot of ways that you can stack your deck to put up what you want to on top of your deck and then put that card into your life with Queen or Yamato's ability. It's really resilient, and blue has access to the best removals in the game currently in the OP-04 meta game. So we're going to talk about the deck, go through every single card that this person used, talk about its potential matchups against Whitebeard, key cards to look out for. But before we get into that, a quick word from the sponsor of this video. Thank you to MAGISEVEN for sponsoring this video. MAGISEVEN is an online store that specializes in providing glass and gemstone dice for D&D, tabletop RPG games, and anyone else who loves beautifully crafted dice. They offer a wide selection of designs and colors to fit your own aesthetic and needs. Compared to other dice providers, MAGISEVEN D&D dice are superior as it is reasonably priced. Each dice set from MAGISEVEN store is provided by the local factories directly, so there are no middleman traders to raise the cost, which makes them pretty affordable. MAGISEVEN sent me 2 sets of dice to use for my D&D games and they look and feel great. I especially like how their Labradorite natural gemstone dice set looks like. It's so pretty to see in real life and it makes like rolling dice a whole experience on its own. They have a wide variety of dice sets for selection, such as their natural gemstone dice, glass D&D dice, and cat's eye stone dice. MAGISEVEN gemstone dice sets are also produced by the largest gemstone dice factory, and they are professional and experienced in making D&D dice for about 15 years. That's quality right there. You can find out more at my affiliate link in the description below. And if you use my affiliate link, you can get 10% off all your dice orders. So you can get your own set of pretty dice and also save a little bit of money. Their dice sets can also be a perfect and unique gift for your lovers, friends, and family members. So thank you again MAGISEVEN for sponsoring this video and get your own set of MAGISEVEN dice today. Alright, so here's a kind of overview of the deck that the person used, Nuke-saku, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, for the Hiroshima tournament that happened a couple of weeks ago in Japan. He was the runner-up, but it was a great overall showing for this player. If you haven't watched the stream, go to the official One Piece card game YouTube channel and you can watch the live stream tournament over there. So Queen on its own, we talked about it a little bit in the intro, but it's just want to go into the late game, survive like the early onslaught of attacks, and then once you have set up your 8-9 cost characters in your field, then you can continually gain life with Queen and also kind of stack your life that way and prevent threats for your opponent from going through with like your multiple blockers and also great removal in blue. So let's talk about Queen first as the leader. So Queen, if you're not sure about the effect, Don 1 when attacking, if you have a total of 4 or less cards in your life area and hand, draw 1 card. If you're a character with a cost of 8 or more, you may add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life instead of drawing 1 card. So essentially, a lot of the way that the players are playing Queen is that you are counting on having something that's 8 costs or more and you are at like 1 life and like 3 cards in your hand, something like that, and then you put 1 down on Queen, attack with Queen, and then you gain a life. And you can continually just keep gaining life until the effect doesn't proc anymore. So Queen, just extremely resilient as a leader. And now let's talk about the individual cards that go into this deck. So first of all, let's talk about sort of like the core blue cards that help you filter out your card draws. I'm talking about Perona and of course the 3-cost Doflamingo blocker from OP-01. Now these cards can help you stack the top of your deck so that you can eventually, if you are in that situation where you have a 9-cost Yamato that you can play, or using Queen's ability, you can put whatever you want. You know, you can put like for example, a Boa Hancock blocker with trigger, Sanji blocker with trigger on top, and then just like put it into your life so that you can have a free block the next turn. Cards kind of like very important, but you do have to remember what you kind of place, because there are certain situations where you need to remember what goes on top of your deck and what you'll be drawing the following turn as well. Then let's move on to the 2k counter slots, very important in any deck. Now this deck actually has does run Kaya. I think in some situations Kaya is an important card to have, because the ability to draw 2 and discard 2 to filter out what you need and look for specific pieces, maybe a 7 cost Soga King, maybe a 8 cost Katakuri, or 9 cost Mihawk or Yamato. It's very important, because if you don't draw your top end boss monsters, then you're gonna get stuck. So Kaya not only doing double duty as a 2k counter, but also a great way to filter out your draw. Then we move on to one of my new favorite 2k counters from OP-04. It's Capone Gang Beige. This card, if it's planned right, if you kind of put it maybe like the last card in your life, your opponent tries to swing for lethal, you can stop one of your opponent's attack, and it's just so good. Capone Gang Beige, just really good in this deck, because you just want to survive and then kind of out-resource your opponent. Capone Gang Beige is perfect, not only as a 2k counter, but as a potential trigger to prevent your opponent from going through. Then now let's kind of talk about the blockers of the deck. This deck does run a lot of blockers, and because like the kind of meta game with Doflamingo, with also with like Whitebeard or Zoro, there's just a lot of big tall attackers like 9 cost Whitebeard, 7 cost blocker Luffy from the Doflamingo deck. Even Zoro like has multiple attacks, or like Red Green Law going double attacks with the 3 cost Rush Zoro, and then like restanding it with the 5 cost Law Trafalgar Law from the starter deck, and then restanding a Zoro attacking again. So having a lot of blockers is really good. So he has 2 copies of the 1 cost Trafalgar Law. I think the numbers can change as per to your own preferences, but in this version he does run 2 copies of the 1 cost blocker Trafalgar Law from the starter deck, from the Crocodile starter deck. Then a 3 cost the 3 cost Boa Hancock blocker, just really good because it has trigger play this card. You can replace this Brule if you want, but of course it's Boa Hancock, you gotta play it. Just a great way, if it triggers from your life, it's a free blocker for you, and if it can potentially save you in some life-ending situations. Also, Doflamingo, we talked about it before, it's a great blocker to filter out the top 5 cards of your deck. If you don't like them, you can ship it to the bottom as well, but it's great to stack in accordance to what you need in the following turns. Then in this list, they run the 4 cost Boa Hancock blocker. Not only is it a decent sized stat line, 4 cost 5000 power that can potentially go for attacks as well, it has just a really good effect that lets you draw on block, or draw when attacking. And with this deck, you are kind of going to be at a low hand count or low life count and low hand count when you are aiming to use Queen's ability. So the ability to draw you some extra cards to use during your turn itself would be really good. So Boa Hancock is a really good choice for that. And of course, the 4 cost 5000 power Sanji blocker with a triggered ability, you can discard 1 card from hand to play this card. Just a really good blocker for yellow right now. And in this deck, kind of perfect because you can potentially stack either the Boa Hancock blocker or this blocker at the top of your life to potentially play it out to prevent your opponent's from attacks from going through. The deck also runs 3 copies of Soga King, the secret rare from OP-03, just, and of course the alternate art version. It's just really good because it's an on-play, you can return a character with a cost of 6 or less to the owner's hand. So it's a great way to kind of gain tempo over your opponent. Nowadays, Whitebeard likes to play a lot of 6 cost, 8000 power vanilla cards like Thatch. They play out a Thatch, you play out a Soga King. It's great tempo for you because your opponent has to kind of dedicate another 6 Dawn in the following turn to replay it, and Soga King is already on the field. Then couple it with the ability to draw 2 cards and trash 2 cards from your hand, filtering out your draws, looking for what you need. Just a really great card for the Queen deck. Of course, it doesn't meet the requirements of Queen's innate ability, but it's still a really solid card to use to out-tempo your opponent. Then next up, we'll talk about the 3, I would say, boss monsters of this deck. The first one being the 8 cost Katakuri. 8 cost Katakuri, just, very flexible. You can use it to put your blockers that have trigger into your life to kind of, make sure that you have another chance to block in the following turn. Or you can use it to get rid of one of your opponent's threats. Just put it into the bottom of their life. Don't have to worry about it. Katakuri is also an 8 cost character, so it does turn on Queen's ability when you need to. Being able to attack also with like an 8000 power beater is just really powerful. The secret rare Katakuri, just kind of perfect in this deck. Can get you alive, can remove a threat from your opponent's side of the field, and then turns on Queen's ability. So great. Then we have 2 copies of the 9-cost Dracul Mihawk from OP-01. This card is just really great, and it's a lot of in the whole removal suite for blue and yellow. Blue being like able to ship your opponent's threats to the bottom of the deck with Mihawk, and also the events that we're going to talk about in a bit. 9-cost Mihawk, just extremely powerful, and the prime targets are, if not like the 5-cost Marco the Phoenix, 4-cost Marco the Phoenix from Whitebeard, the 7-cost Luffy from Doflamingo, or even the Uta blocker. Now, getting rid of your opponent's blockers, essentially. Anything that's 7 cost or below, you can just get rid of with Mihawk. And then anything that's above 7, you kind of save it. You kind of save your other cards for it, which mainly it's the event card that we're going to talk about in a bit. So Mihawk also turns on Queen's ability, does everything that you need it to do. So that's great. Then I think one of the most important cards in the deck list that we saw was Yamato. 9 cost, 9,000 power, so it's a really good top end like finisher for this deck. And on play, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost equal to or less than the total of your and your opponent's life cards. Then you have 1 or less life cards, add up to 1 card from top of your deck to the top of your life card. So essentially, when you are at 1 life, or if you have more, okay, let's take a situation where you are at 1 life, you use Yamato, you get rid of potentially something that, you know, against Zoro can be a 1-cost character. Sometimes your opponent has a lot of life because you're not actively attacking so hard just to out-resource your opponent, so they don't have a lot of cards in your hand. So it may be even up to like 4 or 5 costs that you can potentially get rid of with Yamato. And then because you are at 1 life, you gain 1. And there are many situations where the Queen player will be at like 2 cards or 3 cards in your hand, 1 life, start the turn, they play down the Yamato, they are down to 2 cards, Yamato props something, or even if there's no targets, you can just like, because it's up to, so you can choose 0, and then you can just recover 1, essentially. So then you're at 2 life, you have 2 cards in your hand, with Yamato on the side of the field, 1 Dawn, attach the Queen, attack, and it triggers because Yamato is an 8 cost or higher character. Then you're back to 3 life, just like that. In 1 turn, you could potentially gain up to 2 life, just super resilient. And then, yeah, you can potentially attack with Yamato for game in the next couple of turns once you out-resource your opponent. Yamato is just really good in this deck. If you just use it for the removal, that's great. But more often than not, you're saving it from when you are at 1 or less life, and then you're gaining life with Yamato. So that's perfect. So next we are going to talk about the event cards of this deck, and it's one that's kind of making this deck worth playing because the event cards, these 2 in particular in blue, is just really powerful. Starting with the 3000 Worlds. Main plays up to 1 character with a cost of 5 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. Just a great way to just send all those Marco the Phoenixes back to the bottom of the deck. Don't think about it. Goodbye. And then also against Doflamingo, there's a lot of blockers that are 5 costs or below, mainly the Uta blocker. Everything else like Brook or the Namis, you just want to get rid of it, don't want to think about it. 3000 Worlds is your card. And also the trigger ability does come in handy as well, because you place up to 1 character with a cost of 3 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. So again, with Doflamingo, Nami is a great target for it. Some smaller blockers maybe, you can just get rid of it if it's triggered from your life. So there are situations where you could potentially use 3000 Worlds trigger ability. Then the last event card that the deck plays, it's a playset of Gomu Gomu no Red Rock. It's I would say the strongest event card for blue right now. Main plays up to 1 character at the bottom of the owner's deck. Yeah, like I said, it's silver bullet for everything. But you do want to be resourceful with using Gomu Gomu no Red Rock. If there are other threats like Marco the Phoenix, anything that is 5 costs or less, you want to prioritize using the 3000 Worlds. If there's anything that's 7 or less, you want to prioritize using Dracul Mihawk. Then anything higher than that, you got your 9 cost Whitebeard, you got your 10 cost Doflamingo, the green one, and then you got your 10 cost Moms. All of them, save this card for them. Anything that's higher than 7 or 8, anything that's higher than 7 essentially, save the Gomu Gomu no Red Rocks. But you can use it for anything else. If you need to get rid of something immediately and you have this in your hand, boom, just send it to the bottom of the deck. It's just that good. It's really good. That's why this deck is really powerful. And the trigger ability as well, place up to 1 character with cost of 4 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. once again, there's a lot of 4-cost characters that are really, really powerful. 4-cost Marco the Phoenix blocker, 4-cost Uta blocker from the Doflamingo deck. I can go on and on, and like against Zoro, like there are multiple choices for that. So yeah, this event card makes the Dream work, makes Queen work, and it's just really good. So Queen, definitely a really strong contender in the OP-04 meta game. A lot of people have been running different versions of this, but kind of the core is the same. You want your 8-cost Katakuri, 9-cost Mihawk. The number might change a little bit, 9-cost Yamato, and then of course the strong event cards and everything else that we've talked about. You can kind of change the number according to your playstyle, according to the meta game. But this is a good solid starting list. It's a little bit difficult to pilot because yeah, you're not being super aggressive. If you're a fan of more control style decks, this one would be for you. So if you're in the English release waiting for OP-03, OP-04, then keep an eye on Queen, and I'm pretty sure some of the pieces you would already have. If you're already a control player, you'll probably picked up the blue starter deck, so there you go. That's a couple of cards from there. But yeah, make sure to use this list as like a staple tracker, and then pick out the cards for yourself. And there you go, a little bit of a breakdown of the Queen deck list from the runner-up of the Hiroshima tournament. I think this list is very, very powerful indeed, able to survive in the late game, like hold on to that 1-0 life and then just keep gaining life, and then yeah, just doing Queen things. Has decent matchups across the board. Sometimes might be weak against like you know, opposing, like say like an aggressive start from Whitebeard. It might be a little bit hard to catch up on because you do need to survive to the late game. And if Whitebeard has the nuts, if Zoro has the nuts, then it's very difficult to kind of counter out of it. But more often than not, it does have tools to control the board, stabilize a little bit, you know, at 1 life, then you start gaining life that way. So let me know what you think. Do you like Queen as a leader, and are you one of those players, control players, that would love to pick up Queen in the future? Let me know in the comment section below. Once again, thank you to MAGISEVEN for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.